So we'll kick off. It is now 6 o'clock. Any apologies? Lateness? Leaving early? No. Conflicts of interest to declare? Philip?
Yes, Madam Chair, I may be on the District Licensing Committee for a hearing, so I will take no part in relation to the deputation in item 4.
Thank you, Philip. Any other conflicts of interest? Right, the minutes of the last meeting. Everybody had a read of them? Any questions? Somebody like to move that they be accepted? Thank you, John. Seconded by Mark. Right, any problems with them?
Matters arising? Yes?
I haven't passed the minutes yet.
Okay.
Right, all those in favour of confirming the minutes, please say aye. Those against? That's carried. Matters arising, Andrea.
6.2, the update to the Community Board standing orders. In paragraph 3, Jim Palmer noted that my suggestion about adding an additional order in regards to the capacity and coherence of a board member that would need wider consideration. I would like to actually have that minuted, that I would like that looked into as to what we would need to do to actually entertain that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Got that one? Yep. Right, anything else under matters arising? Right, we have 2 deputations from the community tonight, and we will kick off with Narinda from the Titino Enterprises. Please come to the table at the end there and share your business plan with us. Thank you, Philip.
Hello everyone, my name is Gurpreet Singh Dhillon, and I'm the one of the director for Titino Enterprises Limited, and with me my business partner Narendra Singh. And just want to pass you something about myself. I'm working as a store manager in liquor centre from last 5.5 years in Christchurch. And I'm the only one who is looking after that bottle store, as my owner, he lives in Australia, and I'm the one who is organizing each and everything. And we are bringing here the liquor center Woodend. The liquor center is one of the fastest growing liquor chain in New Zealand, with over 235 stores nationwide, and they are proudly New Zealand owned and operated family. They serve, support and are part of local communities. They are big on being local. So is the only true independent liquor chain in New Zealand. They have a very good track records and a zero tolerance, and some of our things which Narendra is going to share with you regarding the business plan and other things. Thank you.
Thank you, Gurpreet. Kia ora, good evening, everyone. My name is Narendra Singh Wadaj. I'm the one of the director of Titino Enterprises. So before sharing our business plan, I would like to introduce myself properly with the board. By work, I own a couple of hospitality business, one in Amberley and one in Woodend. So we are running the Amberley from 2017. So I'm pretty well known by this area. So the wooden one, the Big Bite Pizza, where we put the application for off license. So yeah, so with my professional work, I also do a lot of community and social work. I'm the president of Canterbury Punjabi Association. That's a community group. We organize a lot of social event and do social work. Last couple of years, we done a lot of work after mosque attack and COVID-19, and a motion in New Zealand Parliament was run in May 2019 to acknowledge our work, and thanks to me and my association. So with this, I'm also a White Ribbon Ambassador. Obviously, as an ambassador, I stand against domestic violence. So regarding our business plan, as Gurpreet mentioned, we are bringing the franchisee of the liquor center, which is totally New Zealand owned, and they are local. So obviously we got some objections and people have concern regarding another bottle store in the town. So this is a growing town. According to 2018 census, like Woodend population around 2,800, and legally after 1,000 population, one liquor shop fall in the category. And then we have a Cocoa Beach, and we have a couple of small suburbs all around. For me to come in the liquor industry, that's my first venture, I would like to tell you. Actually, I'm just the backbone. Gurpreet is in charge of all liquor operation, as he got the experience. For me, I think I'm pretty I would not say inspired, but I think I like the model of maybe you guys heard about the licensing trust, Matrua licensing trust in Gore, and the Invercargill licensing trust in Invercargill, where all the margin go back to the community. Like if we talk about Matrua licensing trust, like up to 31st March 2019, they gave back 90 million back to the community. To support the sports, to support the schools, to support the community. So my model for the Woodend liquor store is almost same. So we decided to give our 20% profit back to the Woodend community, in which 5% will go for the local school and preschool sponsorship, 5% would go to the local Woodend fire station, 5% would go to the support this community center, and another 5% will go to support the local community initiatives. So I think when we talk about liquor, obviously there is a liquor is for the entertainment, and most of the people we drink alcohol. Personally, myself not. But there is we need good people in this industry, and we need the people who run not like a business, just with this thought to serve the community. So this is my plan, my vision for the local community. If I am here, I will support the local community initiatives. So after this, if you guys have any questions or any suggestion for my application, please feel free to ask. I'm here for all your questions today.
Right, any questions, anyone? Right, I'd just like to say we have no questions from anyone, so I'd just like to say thank you very much for coming along tonight and sharing your business plan. Thank you. And yes, you're very welcome to stay, but feel free to leave.
No, thank you very much, and thanks once again for your time to speak us, and thanks guys.
Thanks for that. Can you get Philip in? Thank you. James. We have a deputation from James Ensor, who's come to talk to us about signage for surf lifesaving club hours over the summer season.
Yeah, I'm James Ensor. I've been involved.
James, can you?
I should remember this technology. I'm James Ensor. I've been involved in this area for a long time, probably about 20 years, to try and get good outcomes. And I still take a real interest in the surf patrols to see that we get good outcomes at the beaches and we don't see a drowning at any of the surf patrol areas, and make sure we get funding as well. So what we're proposing to do is we've had a lot of trouble over the last 10 years getting a sign to stay in Pegasus, and with the different owners there, it's been very difficult. And we love the sign you've put up. I just didn't do a fancy presentation. I just brought some pictures along which you can see. The lovely sign you've got with Pegasus Town on, I think it's great, and the planting around the bottom. And what we'd like to do is put a sign virtually opposite that with the Surf Patrol on. I'll show you the site of that in a minute. and just put the planting around the side there, and we think if you do that, it'll also help to calm the traffic down going in if you've got a sign each side. We've then got a site which we're proposing, which is virtually opposite there, which is where that jacket is. You can probably see the jacket just here. It's inside where the trees are, and it's just near where the fence is, where the underpass is under the road. And we had Ian Kennedy from roading team who does all the signs for the last 20 or 30 years, and he had a look and he said it has no visual effects on traffic and safety and things like that, so he thinks it's an ideal site. This is the sort of sign we want to put up, which has the dates and the times and things of the surf patrols. This will be one, and then we'll have another one down further, and then we'll have one on the toilets down at the beach. And we'll have one up on Rangiora Road. So we just want to give all of the community a chance to see the dates and times and when the activities are. And if we have it in that location, it actually gets all the houses and the people travelling to their houses. I'm happy to answer any questions, but it would just look, just to refresh you, it would look like this, some funding if you want to do it. We wonder whether the community would perhaps plant it, and perhaps the community board would apply for some funding from that landscaping budget and end up with something similar to this, because it would look a bit huckery if you ended up with something completely different, and I think that looks really good now. And we can't put our sign back on there now because there's too many plants and it's really too low, and each time we've had it in a low location it's got damage. So if we have it up higher, which it'll be like a giveaway sign, it'll be just a wee bit higher than what this is on the other side, it's least likely to get damaged. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm there to represent the community and try and get a good outcome.
Thanks, James. Questions from anyone?
I'll
John.
pass these quickly around if you want to have a quick look too. That might be a good idea.
James, just whereabouts on the State Highway 1 is this one around by Pegasus?
This is on the road going into Pegasus, that sign that's...
So it's not on the State Highway?
No, this is on the roadway going into Pegasus town, and it's the residence sign that's on the opposite side to where the walkway is. It's between the golf club and where the first roundabout is going into the town.
Okay.
And we had it on the opposite side.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
We had it on the opposite side last year, but it was not a very satisfactory site.
Okay, that's great, thank you.
Yeah, have a good look at that. You'll pick it up.
Any other questions from anyone? I'd just like to say thank you, James, and yes, I think we will. I mean, I would like to see that we call for a report from staff around the sign and landscaping around the bottom of it. We do have money in the landscaping budget, so that is actually a possibility for that. It has been an issue in the past, the sign does get damaged, and it is certainly something that is worthy of bringing to people's attention what the Surf Lifesaving Club hours actually are over the summer. So thank you very much, James.
No, that's fine. We did have a sign that was smaller, which we had up, but it got damaged as well. Thank you very much.
Right, any adjourned business? Reports. We've got first up is the Woodend Shared Path. Welcome to you both.
Good evening. So following on from our presentation a month or so ago, we carried out 2 drop-in sessions and also public consultation with the residents directly involved, the school and the bowling club. We received 34 submissions in total. 8 of them were in favour of option 1 and 26 of them were in favour of option 2, which was shifting the lanes in that wide area. I've got some the pictures are there if you need to see them. Following on from that, to allow the shared path to be installed, we're looking to install some no parking lines opposite Turawhahia Road. We also carried out consultation with the affected property owners in that area, and they had no concerns. The resident at number 128 just wanted one parking space outside his driveway, which we've provided. And yeah, following on it, we never had any negative feedback. So our next step would like to be proceed with detailed design. So, is there any questions?
Any questions from anyone? Philip.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've actually discovered why I didn't have your diagrams, Glenn. I've got one of Cone Street, in Diligent. Wasn't very helpful. Of the people who supported option 1, I got the impression that they were the properties that were affected if option 2 was chosen. Was there any way of mitigating the concerns of the people opposed to option 2 simply because it went past their place, or they were worried about access and so on? Was there any consideration given there?
So most of the ones that opposed, a couple of them were to do with financial costs. I don't think they quite understood that option 1 or option 2 would be cheaper. There was a couple that were concerned about it being the carriageway being pushed closer to their property, but there is no difference to any other carriageway in the district. At the moment, it is about 7 metres from driveway to edge of lane, whereas we're proposing to put it to about 3.5 metres.
Any other questions? I actually have a couple. School Road, will trucks... Right. School Road, we actually have trucks travelling north. They turn off State Highway 1, come down Rangiora Woodend Road, and then turn into School Road and park up this end of School Road to be able to access the toilets and the shops. Will trucks still be able to turn right into School Road? I mean, is there going to be enough room for trucks to get around there?
Yeah, so we put tracking curves on it and trucks will still be able to get in. Although that was one of the concerns that one of the residents had raised, was the amount of trucks that come down there.
Yeah.
To access the public toilet, which is down there.
Yeah.
And then he also had concerns about them turning left from School Road onto Rangiora Woodend Road and cutting that corner where people wait.
Yeah.
So we've actually put a build out through there to try and mitigate that.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, the truck drivers, they stop to use the toilet, but also to go to the shops to get something for their lunch. So there's quite a few trucks actually do that. My other question is the shared path comes as far as sort of the entrance into the school, so just along here from the community centre. And then there's nothing after that. And yet my understanding was it was going to come up to State Highway 1 and then join up with the signalised pedestrian crossing. Is that part of this project, or...?
Yeah, so we're looking to also widen that section from the school to State Highway 1 by about 0.5 metre, which will just allow for that additional traffic, which will then link into NZTA's signalised crossing.
Mm-hmm. Is it possible to do something with the shared path around Chinnery's Road intersection? It was raised by one of the respondents who talked about, at the moment when traffic is heading towards Rangiora, down Rangiora Woodend Road, turning right into Chinnery's Road, traffic behind them is coming around on the inside and actually going on to the shared path, because there's actually nothing to stop them. It's actually sealed right across at that point. Is there something that could be done to make that safer?
Yes, there is, and we are looking. So that was actually raised in the safety audit from when that Woodend to Rangiora path was first constructed, and we are working through a list of minor improvements, including that intersection, and that may be included in this contract, or it might be passed to Cyclone to do sooner rather than later. So we're still working through and prioritising the list of remedial works to do.
Yeah, it is actually quite an important one, because there is a lot of there's more and more traffic turning right into Chinnery's Road there, so it is becoming quite a safety issue.
So what we're looking at doing is painting diagonal shoulder markings from the end of where the build out is now, where the path currently ends, running that probably around about a 1.5 metre painted shoulder up towards Rangiora, and 2 concrete islands, one on each side of opposite the intersection, with some signage saying basically keep right. So that's, quite happy to also just take some feedback on if you think that is a suitable solution as well.
Sounds it.
Okay.
Any other questions from anyone? Right, anyone like to move something? Thank you, John. So John's moved option 2 be the one that we put forward. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Mark. John, would you like to speak to that? Right, any other discussion around that?
If I may, just for a point of clarification, there was mention of the yellow lines, or was that, I didn't have a big issue with it, but that was part of your paper, wasn't it? Yeah. So do you want to make any comment? Was there any particular objection? I think one neighbour was sensitive to it, wasn't it? But you had a solution that for them, is that right?
Yeah, so the resident at 128, he wanted to have a park, so I have reduced that radius just to allow a car park outside his driveway. The resident at 118 had a lot of off-street parking and a lot of land that he could use, so he didn't have any concerns with it. He actually noted that most of the traffic that parked there are truck trailers that are just left there overnight.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm in favour of option 2. I'd like to congratulate Glenn on his work and colleagues in getting to this point. Cycleways, greenways, whatever they're called, can be quite problematic with residents when you're trying to retrofit one into an existing area. The advantage here was that there is plenty of carriageway that could be used, and I'm pleased that staff have taken on board the concerns of residents. So on that basis, the preference for option 2 was quite overwhelming from the feedback that's been received. So it looks, hopefully, fingers crossed, like a job well done. Thank you.
I'm also in support of the motion with option 2. Very impressed with the feedback that you got from the community, and how favourable it was actually just to the whole concept of extending the cycleway. And you got a lot of users of it too who provided feedback, which is really, really good to see. And I look forward to it. So, anybody else got anything they'd like to say? Right, I'll put that to the vote. So that is 6.1A through to G that we are voting on. So all those in favour say aye. Those against? That's carried. Thank you very much. It was a good report and it was good consultation, and yeah, fingers crossed. Thank you. Scott, road naming. Welcome back.
Thank you very much, everyone. So I'll start with the first purpose of the report is to consider adding a new road names to the pre-approved list of potential road names in the Woodend-Sefton Community Board area. So this report has come about because an amendment has been made in order to change one of the suggested names after consultation with the family since the previous board meeting on the 14th of September. So I will take it you've had the opportunity to read the report, and I will look forward to any questions you may have.
Questions, anyone? Must have been a good report.
Oh,
we don't have any questions.
Yeah.
Now, would somebody like to move something then? Thank you. So Andrew's motion and Philip has seconded it. Andrew, do you want to say anything to it?
No, I don't think anything else needs to be said. So.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's good that we are using names that are connected with the district, and in this case I actually know both B and C families, so I think it's quite appropriate, especially Robinson. That's a well-known family in the district. There were a large number of Robinsons, so when it might be named after Ivor Robinson, but there are other siblings and so on that will benefit from that name being used. So Betty Wright, that appears to be a change from Betty Rainey. I'm assuming Wright is her maiden name. So that overcomes any duplication with Rainey. So I think they're two good names to be added to the list.
Anyone else got anything to say? Right, I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against? That one's carried. Scott, your next report on Pegasus Fields.
Yes, so the purpose of this report is to consider naming a new private right-of-way which is created as part of rural subdivision comprising of 7 new lots. The land parcel being developed is 158 Ashby's Road, Balken. So I take it you have the opportunity to read it once again, and I will look forward to any questions you may have around it. Thanks.
Right, questions from anyone? Philip.
Scott, how desirable is it to name streets after contractors in various developments? I mean, it could be lawyers, could be contractors. There's no direct connection with the area apart from their involvement with the subdivision. So is that something that you would recommend or has occurred in the past?
Yeah, so basically what happens in the process is that the developer puts forward some names and we submit them, and I guess it's, we check them as if there's no names already existing in the district, if it's not a duplicate name, that sort of thing, as far as the name where it comes from, and as long as they've got a reasonable background to it. I mean, if it's somebody that's contributed to the subdivision, to the development, then we would put that forward. I mean, I guess it's up to the board to sort of decide this is a good name, this is not suitable name.
As I understand it, though, Scott, the recommendation was to take the farm, the name of the farm, and it was only if that wasn't deemed appropriate that they would like as a second choice the contractor. Yeah, I mean, personally, I thought the name of the farm, there's some significance. It fits with the approved criteria per the council policy, and yeah, that was my view.
Right, anyone like to put a motion? Andrew, do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, John. Andrew, would you like to speak to it? Although you really already have.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the noting that fact. I take it as a compliment.
No. John, anything you would like to add? Right, anything?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to say that I support this motion. My question wasn't indicating I didn't approve of the original motion, but I think it's preferable to have a name that's linked to the community where it's being used, and I thought that name sounded quite cool. I'd never heard of that name before, but it obviously has some significance to the locality, so I think it's very appropriate.
Right, anyone else got anything to say? Right, I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour of Greyfern Lane? Yep. Say aye. Aye. Those against? That's carried. Thank you, Scott. 2 good reports, and you have a result, so that's always a good way to end the evening. Thank you. Right, we have an application to the Discretionary Fund. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank goodness it's only one. The other day I had 6 all in one report, which was quite a marathon. Arts Canterbury, they're not based in our area, they're based in Christchurch, but I believe there are several of our artists who belong to their organisation. I did phone and ask them if any of the artists chosen to display at this presentation were from our area, and I didn't get a definitive answer because I don't think they had actually made a decision yet. They're still in the setup stage. But having said that, you might want to look at the finances, but I felt that there was no reason for me to phone them and say they didn't meet the criteria. I believe it's up to the board to make that decision.
Thanks, Kate. One question. They've received $1,800 in funding, it says, from the WDC Creative Communities funding, so that is linked through the council? Okay.
Yes, I would presume, pretty sure that it would have come through the annual plan. That funding would have gone to Creative Communities Fund, and then I presume the firm would have applied to Creative Communities, much as they've applied here. Mm-hmm. Creative Communities, I think generally, Philip, you'll know more about it, they give a fair amount of money. It's not like our little $200-300 shots.
Thank you, Kay. Excuse me. I'm the chair of Creative Communities Waimakariri, and we have approved a grant of $1,800 towards this event. So when I was reading it, I'm thinking that sounds familiar. Then when I looked through it, confirmed my thought. Creative Communities Waimakariri is funded by the Department of Internal Affairs, and we have a budget of 50 or 60,000 a year to distribute. So we actually have a bigger budget than the community board does. So it is a legitimate event, and it is being held in the district. So it's up to the board to determine whether it wishes to assist further.
Right. Any other questions from anyone? I would like to move that we decline funding for this. Would I have a seconder for that? Thank you, John. It would be an event that's held within our area, but that seemed to be about it. Having picked up $1,800 worth of funding from the Creative Communities, which is administered through the council, I sort of felt that they had, you know, a fair whack from the local community. This is it's Arts Canterbury. It's not just a Waimakariri thing. We have no idea how many artists would come from up here. So for that reason, I just sort of felt it didn't really meet our criteria, and that there were other community things that may be more valuable. John, did you want to say anything?
Oh, I sort of conceded what you were saying. I think it seems to me that they're sort of, whilst they're saying they're displaying arts from local people, we don't know that for a fact. And I just sort of feel like they don't need our funding.
Right, anyone else got something to add?
If I can. Yes. Yeah, I wasn't quite sure what to make of it when I saw this, because I could see that conflict and see it wasn't, local like some of the other things like the arts event that goes in Kaipo and whatnot. But I sort of thought that it's different. It is being held locally, and you can see the local guys out at Brick Mill. They're given the venue for free, and I didn't see the financial statements for this. You can see the event is kind of needing the fundraising from all sorts of parties for the event. I kind of wondered if we should go half and give them $250 or something like that, because there is a clear local benefit. We're helping something to happen locally, and it's a wee bit different. They're not purporting for it to be about local artists. They're purporting it for it to be held locally with a different collection of artists, and I think that's worthy of some consideration. Yep, I'd be happy to put in a motion for $250 to go towards it.
Second that motion, Madam Chair.
Would you like to speak to it?
No, Madam Chair, I've got nothing else to add.
I'm in agreement also with Andrew that yes, they're not professing that it will be all local artists, but if it drives actual further business to our other businesses in Waikuku, we have the Collective just down the road as an eatery, we also have Pegasus down the road as well, and if it just highlights and showcases our district by new potential persons attending, then I do advocate. $500 no, but as Andrew said, $250, be more than happy to support it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anybody else got anything to add? I mean, I would have to vote against that. As I said, I still support the declining the application. Where they're sort of looking for money from, they seem to be looking for a lot from the Waimakariri district. And I sort of think that they should also be looking into Christchurch, because there will be Christchurch artists, things like that. Yeah. Anyone else got anything they'd like to add? John?
Actually, having listened to what Andrea said, I think I sort of agree with what Andrew's suggestion is. There could be a good spin-off from this whole thing. So I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't support it.
Philip?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Given my other hat, I'm supposed to promote the arts in Waimakariri, and I think this isn't about the artists, it's about the exhibition, and most of the people will be local who would attend that. There could be out-of-towners from Christchurch, so I'm happy to support the amendment. I think it adds to vibrancy in the district, and whether there are local artists or not, I think isn't really the point of the exhibition.
Right, anyone else before we vote on that? Right, I'll put that amended motion to the vote, which is $250. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against? And me. So that vote is carried. So the amendment's carried. Now we have to move to the substantive motion. So all those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against? That's carried. Thank you very much, everybody. So it's 250k meeting dates. Sorry.
Yes, normal end of year report. Just setting up your meetings following the same pattern as this year, other than hopefully hiccup between May and June, April and June. You will notice that the 9th of February will be a Tuesday because of Waitangi Day. So because it's a Tuesday, we've opted to go to Waikuku Beach because they have a permanent fixture on a Monday. So if we're wanting to meet at Waikuku, we have to change our meeting date. Seeing we have to already, I've taken the opportunity of suggesting Waikuku for that meeting. And the others just follow the normal Woodend Pegasus. If we decide to go somewhere else, we can do an amended motion at that time. Pleased that, well, I'm hoping that you're going to stay at 6 p.m. because I think it's made a huge difference to the outcomes of our meetings. And any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Andrew.
Thanks, Kay. And just my only question was, would we go, why does Sefton not appear as one of the options on there? I did hear what you said, is if we want to go another thing, we could make a choice, but I thought that was good, and just curious.
Again, they've got a permanent booking for Monday, so we would have to change the meeting date again to a Tuesday. But we can do that, there's no problem. And also, I wasn't sure what their timeline's going to be like next year if with the new build and all that. I know that they're saying probably 2 years, but I wasn't going to be super confident. But if we decide, we can look at maybe October again or next year.
Can I just ask a question? Couldn't we actually just sort of decide that next year when it comes around that we swap something around? We don't have to make a decision now, like. Yeah.
Although I think, in some ways, I think it'd be good to have that in the calendar. I think it's quite, it takes a bit of effort for us to go somewhere else because we've got these good facilities, they're close at hand and whatnot. And in some ways also, the Tuesday, if we've got enough notice, like October, we and anyone else can be well aware of it. And by the way, we don't know, it's probably not an issue, but we might find that some people might be committed on a Monday and it's a bit more difficult for them to come along. Not really suggesting there's a serious issue, but it's not the end of the world. I think it may be some little advantage in having a variety once or twice a year. So personally, I'd like to see us to schedule a Sefton meeting sometime if we can.
If it's not in the summer, would be good. Like I put that on the night when we had the one at Sefton. I touched rugby that night, so I couldn't go to. So if it's in the winter, that would be fine. But generally on a Tuesday, I'm out.
I'm sorry to interrupt. What time do you finish?
Good question.
15 minutes.
I have the whole booked at 7. Is that okay?
Which one? Are you sure it's this one?
Yes, this one.
We're not going to be finished by 7.
The hall is
No,
on. You don't mean the...
No, meeting room A. I'm in here every Monday at 7 o'clock teaching yoga. Sometimes I go into the other room, but for this week I'm booked into meeting room A.
I'm sorry, I wasn't aware, but we're generally here on a Monday since COVID.
We won't be too late, I would think.
Health and well-being.
Well, that's that exercise group.
It's been booked since COVID when we changed it to every year month.
Thank you for that, Simon. Right. Yeah. I suppose with Sefton, I suppose with Sefton the issue is whether we actually set a date or whether we actually wait until next year and actually see where their timeframes are at as it sits with, the hall. Because it might be that there is actually a really good time of the year when, we might actually get some members of the public along to the meeting, when the hall committee is actually discussing something. So, it might be better to wait until next year to actually set the date, but actually sort of say that we would like to have a meeting in Sefton next year. It's an option.
What I can do is make a note and maybe bring it back to the board in March and just remind them, and then we can review it then. Okay?
When does the touch season start?
The only reason why we sort of looked at October, November, December was because the room's quite cold and it's dark. So, we're trying to get forward summer. So it would either be there or through to April.
It doesn't look like those dates clash, but I think the one we had at Sefton clashes with the full council on a Tuesday. So if you're doing, that's the first Tuesday. It doesn't look like any of the first Tuesday of the month. Well, I don't know. No, it doesn't look like they were. Only the 8th of March might, but no.
And perhaps like September, if we, early, it's not that far off spring. Good jacket I can share if anyone else needs it.
So I could move that we stick with the dates as they are here, but that we note that Kay will bring something back to the board early next year when we re-look at it, because we would like to have a meeting at Sefton. Would I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Andrew. Any other comments around that?
I'd like to pick up on your suggestion, Madam Chair, which that date is, okay, I think you'll do it anyway, but up with discussion with the committee up there, because there might be a timing that's suitable for them. And it might work the other way. If we said we were coming, it might encourage them to sort of focus on something. Okay.
Anybody else got anything to add to that? Right, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against? That's carried. Right, correspondence. We have a memo from Colin Roxburgh regards to the question that we had from a Sefton resident around the Ashley water supply. Anybody have any questions around that? Okay.
Through you, Madam Chair, I have forwarded this correspondence to the gentleman who wrote, Jonathan Carr. And I've asked him if he had any further questions to come back to me. That was probably 2 weeks ago, and I haven't heard anything. So I'm presuming he's happy with the response. I'm still waiting for the query regarding speeding from Joanne. I did send her a reminder last week, but I think they're pretty pushed at the moment with getting shovel-ready projects up and running. So I will follow that up again.
Thanks, Kay.
Thank you for that, Kay. Can I just affirm, though, that even if we are busy, that there's still some personal contact to acknowledge receipt? Thank you.
Right, any other questions? Anyone like to move that we received that correspondence? Thank you, Philip. John, seconding. Philip, anything you'd like to say?
Just that I think it was really a question directed more at Huranui than ourselves.
Anything anyone else would like to say? Right, all those in favour say aye. Those against? That's carried. Chair's report, I'll take it as read. Any questions from anyone? I will move from the chair that my report be accepted. Do I have a seconder for that? Andrew. I don't think I've got anything to add. It's pretty self-explanatory. I don't think there was anything major there. Andrew, anything you'd like to add? Anything from anyone else? Right, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against? That one's carried. Right, matters of information. There's a fair list of reports there. Anyone have any questions around any of them? Anyone like to put a motion to receive those? Philip, thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Sandra. Any discussion? Philip?
I was just going to comment that one of the reports relates in 9.12, and Sandra may wish to comment on that too, the property maintenance bylaw, which it's taken a long time, but essentially it now relates only to long grass, and long grass is 200 millimetres, is it? Where the council, if you don't cut your grass, it applies to vacant urban sections, residential sections, not rural areas. The council can come and cut it and send you the bill. So it's quite a good wee bylaw. It's fairly arbitrary as to what the length of grass should be, but apparently this was quite influential in determining the height of grass.
It's very scientific.
Very scientific. Thank you.
I do have a question around that actually. I'd actually forgotten, but in Pegasus, which was one of the problem children of the district in terms of empty sections, although they are getting less every day, which is really good. But also one of the other thing is the swale, which is the equivalent to the berm, which is council responsibility, although residents are expected to maintain it. Will this apply to that? This bylaw apply to that?
No, it applies to residential sections only, which will be in private ownership. It doesn't apply to council assets. So maybe Snap, Send, Solve may deal with that issue.
Yes, I find it quite ironic though that that we're expecting private residents to maintain their empty section, and we have to do a Snap, Send, Solve to get council to maintain the swale in front of an empty section, because I'll tell you, a lot of them are probably about 4 times the height of that. So, Simon.
Can I just recommend you add to your summer reading list the customer satisfaction survey results? It is a really rich set of information and feedback from the community, and you might say, and it does break it down by rule, so it's best we can within a statistical confidence that we can have. But the value of that survey is it's tracking through time, and we've now got half a dozen or more months over time, and it's the trend as much as the absolute. But it is, and it's also, it's the verbatums as much as the numbers, is what people are saying, and it is a very reliable survey in terms of its response rate, so great.
Thanks, Simon.
In regard to that, just to note that there will be a presentation on the customer services at the next All Boards. Tessa Surley is going to be there to take us through it and give you an opportunity to actually ask questions.
That's a different thing. This is the satisfaction survey.
That's right. Oh, that's right.
Giving you an update on the community teams program.
Yep.
Slightly different.
I can tell you, Simon, I've already read it. Very surprised at the low response rate, relatively low response rate that's to it. Overall, it's.
So our response rate for the customer satisfaction survey is about 75%.
Yeah, it's also quite a low number that are actually put out there. Yeah.
At the district level, it
Yeah.
is about plus or minus 4%.
Yep.
So pretty good if you think about
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. No, I didn't. Any other questions from anyone? Would someone like to move that we receive that information?
It's been moved. and
We've done that?
seconded. We're waiting to...
We're back to, right, well, I'll put that motion then. All those in favour say aye. Those against? That's carried. Members' information exchange. Andrew, do you want to kick off with anything you've got to...
No, nothing else to add.
Thanks, Andrew. Andrea? Andrea, has there been a meeting of the Health Advisory Group? Is there anything? No, I was just wondered if there'd been anything.
There is the, and what else is it? Also, but we'll talk about that because I'm a bit concerned about it. There's the walking and cycling strategy.
Okay.
It's a big different science. Yeah. But you'll talk about that later.
Okay, we'll add that to the members' forum,
And
the
concerns about the tourism strategy as well.
cycling. Right, Philip, anything you would like to share with us?
Just, I'll highlight a couple of things. The Health Advisory Committee met last month, I think. I wasn't able to attend. It's meeting in December at the hospital.
Yeah.
So it is alive and well. One of the things...
No pun intended.
It is a birthing unit, is it? Yeah. Creative New Zealand Assessments, we've already mentioned that this evening. That committee made a number of decisions and I think allocated about $30,000 in round figures at its meeting last month. The Property Acquisition and Disposals working group has been meeting. That was a group I may have mentioned previously. We were looking at disposals, but before you can dispose of a property that may be surplus, you need to know how it was acquired, and it's quite a complicated scenario how council has ended up owning various properties. Last month I was fortunate to go to the Zone 5 and 6 conference in Ashburton, and Councillor Barnett and the Mayor were in attendance also. I started making notes and then I discovered that Kirsten was busy typing away on her laptop, so I actually printed some of her notes off rather than take my own. We met the new President of Local Government New Zealand, and they've also got a new CE, Susan Freeman Green. So it's had a wee bit of a refresh, I guess. They talked about water, social media, the future of local government, and really a whole lot of items. It was really a good event. We had a number of mayors from throughout the South Island. A lot of them are quite hard cases, but just to network with people and talk to people in other areas was very worthwhile. I went to Art on the Quay. They had a pottery exhibition, also partly funded by Creative New Zealand, Waimakariri. I also went to the Rata annual function about a week ago, and Robin Wallace is now the chair of the trustees for Rata, and one of my former associates, Michael Bendel, who works in Kaiapoi, is also a trustee. So North Canterbury is quite well served, I think, on the board. Civil Defence, Sarah Stewart-Black, who is the National Controller, if I'm calling it the right thing, affectionately known as Norm, came and spent a morning in Rangiora with the council, and in fact she was only supposed to be an hour, but I think she stayed 2 hours. One of the things she said was, well, we've had 6 years of disasters in the last 6 years. Why do we think it'll be any different in the next 6 years?
That was the good news.
Yeah, so I thought, well, she's probably quite right, actually. We always think things will get better, but on our track record and history, maybe we should plan for, not so happy events in the future. I also went to the North Canterbury Sport and Recreation Trust, where I'm one of the council representatives. They announced naming rights for Stadium Waimakariri. It's now to be known as Main Power Stadium. And McAlpines have sponsored the 4 indoor courts. So they're both significant sponsorships and will help the Sport and Recreation Trust complete its fit out of the building. I went to a Kids Can fundraiser the other night with the chair of the Kaiapoi Tuahiwi Community Board, the mayor, and also noticed that the president of the Pegasus Residents Group was participating as well. What was that one? Oh, I did a site visit to a dairy farm down the road that were having some issues, and there is a buffer in the district plan for effluent spreading, so there was an issue there. And I actually did a snap send solve over in Pegasus the other day where I saw a tree that had been partly knocked over. I haven't been back to see if it's been righted yet, but it's on the road just opposite the shops, heading towards the lake, just past the Good Home. Yeah, it was on about a 45-degree angle. A car or something may have hit it by the look of things. But anyhow, that's enough from me, so that's it.
Thank you. Watery stuff. You'll be perhaps interested. We get at the Water Zone Committee get regular complaints about the algae on Pines Beach from one concerned Kaiapoi individual. To the extent the council's investigated to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars. In fact, it's probably heading towards about $80,000 or $90,000 to see what is in the algae and the foam around it. To no avail in the sense that nothing really toxic's been found, or nothing's been found. And anyway, John Cook, who represents Ngāi Tuahuriri, is now a member of the Water Zone Committee and made the comment last week at the meeting that in his youth, which is some time ago, but he lived at Pines and he surfed for 25 years there, and he's waded through up to 1 metre deep and picked off his board various different colours of algae and foam over the years, and he's still alive to tell it. So 25 years of that, he actually dismisses it as a concern, which is really effectively we have as well. The Kaiapoi River, which as you know is the most polluted river in North Canterbury and probably Canterbury, is now, as a result of the NPS fresh water, which became into legal effect in September, ECAN is now going to put continuous monitoring equipment, in fact some equipment which is a first for New Zealand, on one of the piers of the Mandeville Bridge, and by the end of January, and it'll be there continuously monitoring a whole raft of water quality parameters. And I quote Adrian Meredith as saying, "Is acknowledged that as a nutrient-sensitive receiving environment exhibiting many problems, ECAN cannot ignore it anymore." So this is a great step forward. I'm your biodiversity champion. I might have told you that last time, I can't recall. And as your biodiversity champion, and these are one representative for all the territorial authorities in the Canterbury region that we will, seems to be an initiative through the Mayoral Forum coordinated by Environment Canterbury, that we're having a meeting before Christmas once ECAN Councillor Lan Pham has her baby. You will have seen the Ngāi Tahu statement of claim over freshwater, and PC7 hearings continue next week. They're week on, week off. And next week we've got the council and me, and they conclude in December, when then there'll be a period when the 3 commissioners compile the report, and I suspect something will come out first quarter perhaps of 2021. That's about it. Thank you.
We had the Community Association meeting, so we talked about the. And we talked about the signs or the lines, what we're doing over here. So we're just waiting for those sitting to get prepared, and then I'll put the thing through for the health and safety plan for the contractor. The signage for the welcome signs, I'm just trying to get someone to make them for nothing, basically. So that's going slowly, but that will happen. We also decided that we're going to have the community cultural day like we did last year with the school. So this year we're going to have a barbecue instead of a hangi, because logistically it's a bit easier to organise. And the other things I think would come into the long-term plan about roading and footpaths.
Okay, thanks, Mark. John?
No, I think Kay, you've got mine.
Yes, I'm afraid I forgot to circulate it. I'm terribly sorry, John. But John did very nicely send me one just after I sent out an apology to you. But he did send it, and I prepared it and made it all pretty and that, and then I forgot to forward it on. So I'm terribly sorry.
I'll probably forget where I've been now.
I'll flick it up tomorrow.
Could you include that? Could you include that in the minutes?
I went to a Woodend. Drop in for the Woodends walking and cycling on the 8th, and then we had our Sefton meeting at the hall, which I enjoyed. I've lost where I was. Then I attended a sustainable strategy in the town hall on. I've got to get it mixed up here. I've got an appointment at the urology department. And then I had...
What time's that?
It's been gone. And then I had a meeting at the War Memorial site with the RSA and the Woodend Lions, and we discussed the seating and the signage, and it was a really good meeting. And Neil Price from the RSA, he made the suggestion that the fence between the footpath and the preserve is pulled out. He says they've never had any problem, and he said it's actually just cuts down the congregation area in half. So I think that was a good suggestion. And so I have prepared a plan to send, but Ian had sent something off anyway. So the seats are going to be located, and I think, Mark, we're going to be looking at someone to install them up there. They're really good seats, and the sign's actually really good too. Where else was I? Then I went to attended an eco workshop in the town hall, which was all about home insulation and things like that. And I think that'll just about do it. I think there's other things I did will come in next month.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Right, consultation projects, 2 of which listed here have closed. We still have the draft climate change policy open until the 13th of November. As a board, we haven't done anything. If you want to do something as an individual, please go right ahead. Another current consultation, which we'll talk about at the end after the meeting, is the Plan Change 30 relating to Ravenswood. And it opened today and closes on the 4th of December. So if we want to do a submission to that, we may have to do a workshop, but we will discuss that later. There is also upcoming an application for an on licence for the Bunker Cafe and Bar in Pegasus. Andrew's already said he does not. He's in support of it. He has no problems with it. So, you know, if anybody wants the board to look at putting a submission in, you know, please let me know. It hasn't, I don't think it's been advertised yet. I don't think I've seen it yet. So there is still time. So, you know, if you want to, the board can talk about it. But otherwise, again, you're always welcome to put in a personal submission. And that is an on licence, which we have talked about before, that we feel is different from an off licence. So, so those are the consultation projects. Andrew?
Note also, I think Councillor Redmond made the same comment. As my understanding is, my comment was twofold, which is I'd actually given a character reference to the manager, so I wanted to make that clear, and I wasn't sure. I know, you know, Philip, you're very good about ducking out when this sort of things come into play, but I didn't see that as being. It's on the table anyway if there's any issue. But the other point that both Philip and I raised was that there's a licence there already. It's just, as I understand it, it's a change in the name of the entity that's going to be doing it. There might be some other issues, but I saw that as being quite different in nature than someone starting afresh and selling as an off licence, yeah.
Consultation projects, board funding update, we had 4,094, we've spent $250 tonight. General landscaping fund is just over 13,000, but I'm sure we'll be revisiting that coming up. Media items, I think I can find something from tonight. Anything want me to highlight particularly? We have no questions under standing orders. We have no urgent general business, so I will close this formal part of the meeting. Our next meeting is 6 p.m. and we're at the Pegasus Community Centre, where we haven't been for some time. But please note it is on Monday the 7th of December, which is actually the first Monday of the month, not the second. And I think that's just simply because it is December, is that right? Yep. So thank you for that, everyone.